3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back again with Rachel to talk about our brains and why we might be feeling bad. Recap everything so far. 4 general emotional states. Again, this is boiled down. You have high energy, low energy, good feelings, bad feelings. Last time we talked about anxiety, which is a high energy feeling with a high energy state with bad feelings associated with it. Anxiety is necessary. It helps us drive into action, but sometimes anxiety can take over and not go away when we want it to.
Right. It's no longer helpful to us. And in fact, it can be very unhelpful to us.
So talk to us more about what to do about that and know the difference between good, bad, and what to do.
So we talked about the difference, knowing the difference in the last episode.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm not going to cover that again. But the difference, how to fight it. There are 2 different really kind of routes to go. Maybe 3. We'll say 3.
3. Cool.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So,
I have no idea.
Let's start with the parts of your body, right? So mind-body connection obviously exists, okay? That's why when you're hungry, you get kind of frustrated, right? You can be, I don't know if you guys have heard the term hangry, right?
Oh, I've heard of hangry.
Well, you're married to me.
So I was like, I've heard it, seen it in action.
You know hangry. My husband hides food in my car so that if I am starting to get snippy in the car with him, he's like, Rachel, open the glove department, eat the nuts that I have in there. And I'm like, okay, pistachios. I feel better now. So, hangry is a real thing, right? But that's because your body, right, is connected to your brain and how you feel, right? I start to get irritable when I haven't eaten, right? And that's a real phenomenon. So we know that's true with hunger. It's going to happen with our other emotions too. So what that means is when you're thinking about something, right, when your brain thinks about the coronavirus, right, and I think...
Yeah, that takes up a lot of my thoughts right now.
Sure, and it's thinking about... what's this summer going to look like? We have a few weddings at the end of the summer that I sometimes think, one of which, can I say this?
Yeah.
I'm officiating. So, can I say that? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I don't know why that would be bad. It's not a secret.
So, that leads me to be anxious because I feel like, oh, is this something that's going to happen? What's that going to look like? Are we gonna have to wear masks at the wedding, right? Like,
right, yeah.
My thoughts could
is it gonna
spiral.
happen?
Right, my thoughts could spiral in that way. And so that's my brain, right? That's all my thoughts in my brain. And when I start to think about that, my body tends to get a little bit anxious, right? I get that, my chest starts to get a little bit...
I raise my shoulders. I feel like that's...
Everybody's body reactions can be different. Some people feel sick to their stomach. I know I do sometimes, or I'll feel really full, even though I haven't just eaten. Or, sometimes your face will get flushed, or your body. A lot of times, all of these things that we're talking about are muscles tensing. Now, where our muscles tense is different, right? Whether it's your stomach, your chest, your shoulders, right? Something's giving us tension in our body, like we're ready to fight something, right? Like as if our body knows bad feeling, better get into fight mode, right?
Yeah.
And so that sensation in your body then goes back up to your brain, and your brain goes, ooh, I'm tense. Something must really be wrong, right? And so then we continue to think more about, maybe I go from like, oh, this wedding, am I going to have to wear masks? To then I start thinking about something else entirely, right? But it's like my brain hops and I'm playing whack-a-mole with anxiety all of a sudden, right? Where bad thought comes up here and maybe I clink it down, but it's popping up somewhere else because all of that tension's in my body still. So I'll talk about the 2 ways and the 3rd way afterwards, okay? So the 2 ways that we can really look at this is brain-body, right? And so where do you want to start? Sometimes it's your brain, right? Sometimes we start by thinking of changing our thoughts, okay? So a lot of that means that you actually have to pay attention to our thoughts and begin to name them, right? And so what that means is I like to have a few different fortune telling, mind reading, all or nothing thinking, right? These are all common types of thinking that lead to anxiety.
Can I hop in there? So, I don't know what those mean. I know what those mean, but, I'm thinking about the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Say, what does fortune telling look like in possible coronavirus thoughts?
Next year I'm
Got it. Like next year, sorry. So fortune telling would be seeing the future and saying, next year I'm not going to have class. What am I going to do?
Sure.
If this doesn't happen, then this isn't going to happen.
Right.
This doesn't happen.
I'm never going to see my students again. I'm
That's
never going to
fortune
see my
telling.
teachers again. That's
Okay.
fortune telling. That's trying to tell the future, but we just don't have enough information about it, right?
Okay.
And again, there's nothing we can do about it. That's different than planning. Planning is saying, I want to see my teacher again, so I'm going to just send them an email and say, hey, like when you go back to school, can I visit you after class? And your teacher says, of course, I would love that, right?
Right.
That's a plan. Fortune telling is not making any plans of what to do, but saying things are going to be bad and there's nothing I can do about it. It's just going to be bad, right? And it just feels bad, right?
Yeah.
And it's telling yourself that things are going to be worse in the future.
Okay. And what were the other two? I forgot.
Okay, so that's fortune telling. Another one is mind reading. So thinking that you know what other people are thinking. This is not as much coronavirus.
Yeah, it's not so much coronavirus,
related,
but like the crush you mentioned.
But right, I was saying extremely common in middle school, right, is knowing, you see two kids walk past you and they look at you and they look back at each other and they whisper something and then they laugh. And 99% of people think they're talking about me, right? But really they could be talking about something else entirely, someone behind you, right? Like,
Right.
they could say, wow, that girl looks like that, that other person from a TV show, right? And then they say, wasn't that funny when that thing happened, that TV show, right? We have no idea what people are thinking, but we oftentimes think that we do.
Gotcha.
Or your mom says to you, hey, you better clean out the garage, right? And you think, my mom hates me because I haven't cleaned out the garage yet. That's you thinking that you can read her mind, right?
Oh.
She didn't say that to you. You're just adding that piece into it. And so
Gotcha.
that creates anxiety as well. And the last thing I said was all or nothing thinking, which...
Oh, I see where this can come into play with the coronavirus.
Right. You can really easily catch those in your brain because it's always, never, everyone, nobody, right? It's all of these gigantic words, right? Which are almost never true, right? So you think it will always be this way.
Right.
We're never
going back to school again.
Yeah,
We're always gonna be stuck at home.
exactly.
Like.
Yeah. Nobody knows what they're doing. Right? So, right, those are like probably irrational thoughts, right? Like usually the truth exists somewhere in between, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to catch those thoughts can help you to then fight them and reframe them, right? So you say, oh my gosh, it's always going to be like this. And then you go, you know what? This is going to end sometime. I just don't know when, and that's hard, right? So this is a way that we can fight it with our thoughts.
So fight fortune telling instead of saying like, oh my gosh, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. Maybe make a plan. It's kind of like, or
Well, decide, is this something I can make a plan about or not?
okay,
Right? So sometimes there are some things that we just can't make plans about. Sometimes, this wedding that I'm officiating it's not until the end of September, right?
right,
That's too. I have decided that I'm not going to worry about it until July, right?
okay,
So I'm going to make a plan that in July I can start to survey what's going on in the world and maybe talk to my friend more, figure out what's going on from there.
okay.
Right?
So mind reading, how can we combat that?
Just remind yourself that you cannot read people's minds, and so that is, we label them irrational thoughts, right? Like, I don't know what they're thinking, and kind of come up with other things that could have happened, right? How many times, I don't know about you guys, but I have a thing about people wave to me, and I smile and wave back going, I don't think I know that person. And then,
Do that all the time.
and then I'm like, oh, that person over there is waving. And I'm like, oh, I was just weirdly touching my head in this weird way, right? Because a lot of times people aren't thinking about me or talking, right, about me.
makes sense, yeah.
And so being able to, okay, well, what else could they be saying, right? Maybe they weren't talking about me at all. Maybe they aren't thinking bad things at all. Maybe my mom's just really frustrated because she's hungry, right? And that's why she sounded angry when she said, you better go clean out the garage.
And then finally, for catching like all or nothing thinking, like, okay, well, nobody knows what they're doing. Someone somewhere knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
We will eventually get back to school at some point. Like that kind of stuff, catching that. So you said that's catching the things in your brain. You said your body too. How do you fight anxiety in your body?
And sometimes that doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
I know that there are times that like, for me, for everybody, sometimes you're in there and you go, nope, I can't see any other way around it. It must be bad. Or even worse, you go, yeah, I know this is all or nothing thinking, right? I know this might not be true, but it still feels bad and it still feels true, and I'm kind of still stuck in that feeling. I'm caught in it, right? And that's why it's time to change your attack pattern, right? And that is to start to notice your body and relax your body. So,
how do you do that?
Well, did you do a deep breathing exercise with the kids or post something on that?
I might have posted something. I forget if it was less than a month ago because we haven't been doing that for that long, but that feels like a century.
Well, we can do a quick
Oh yeah, like just give an example of like one breathing technique, or like this is where your breathing techniques come into play. This is where your
progressive muscle relaxation is another one. So I'll do a real quick progressive muscle relaxation.
Yeah, maybe for like a body part or something.
Just one body part. So progressive muscle relaxation, you generally start at your toes and move up and try to focus on relaxing each part of your body, right? One thing, I'll start with our hands for our arms, right? So there's two different ways to do it. One of them is we'll start with your left arm, right? Thinking about your left arm, just thinking about the muscles in your bicep and trying to relax them, letting them fall and turning off the muscles, and moving down to your forearm and then moving down to your hand, and just kind of thinking about your hand getting heavy and just relaxing, right? On the other side, we're going to do the squeezing reaction first. So I want you to take your hand and I want you to squeeze it as hard as you can. Make a muscle like you're a muscle man, right? Feeling all the muscles all the way through here. And then take a deep breath in. And when you release that breath, let those muscles fall again. And kind of shake it out and try to feel your muscles again relaxing and turning off.
Oh my gosh, that works. Like my hands, like when we did it on one side, not the other side, I was like, but my other arm's still tense.
Well, and there are two different ways. People like different things. I like them in different times too. Before bed, I like just the thinking about relaxing and turning all the muscles off. But in a high anxiety situation, I love doing that with my toes. Squeeze my toes in my feet, take that deep breath, and let it out and try to let my feet relax. Because as we think about our bodies relaxing, it sends that message to our brain that actually says, it goes the other way, right? When your body's relaxed and your brain says, okay, maybe I don't have to be as tense, right? Maybe I can calm down and I can focus on something else. So those are the two ways. And
okay, so I'm going to pause it there real quick because there's a lot. So we can fight anxiety with our brains and our body, and they're kind of like interacting constantly.
Yes.
So to fight anxiety in our brains, we can use some thought patterns. So if we're doing future telling, or mind reading, or all or nothing thinking, we can kind of catch those thoughts a lot of times. If it's all or nothing thinking and saying like, well, okay, that's not reality. If it's mind reading, just realize we can't read each other's minds. And for future telling, sorry, I had a brain freeze there. What? For
fortune telling?
Fortune telling, yeah.
Yeah, it's bringing it back to the present.
Bringing it back to the present moment. And in our bodies, we can do breathing techniques, muscle relaxation techniques. Yeah. And what's this third way?
Well, if you Google search any deep breathing or progressive muscle relaxation, there are tons of different videos on how to do that if you're interested. And I don't know, it feels kind of woo-woo, like hippy-dippy, right?
What just happened?
No, okay. So, like, I feel like I have a very science mind, and whenever someone was like, oh, deep breathe, that will help you feel better, I used to have a very much, like, eye-rolly, like, okay, take a deep breath and I'll feel better. Like, give me something else.
Yes,
and
I have had that too.
Absolutely. So I think that the more that you can, like, but this is evidence-based, and actually, it does work.
Yeah.
So I really want to...
It does.
Yeah. Push you to try that.
You said there was a third way, so besides the mind and the body, what can you do?
So the third way is to not fight it. Okay?
Wait, we just talked about for like 15 minutes on how to fight it.
Right.
Not fight it?
Not fight it. So I'm going to tell you a story about myself. Alright? So...
Can't wait to hear what comes down the pipe on this one.
I used to wake up at night and think someone was breaking into the house. Right? And wake up, you know this.
I know quite well.
Because I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd think someone's breaking into the house. And some of the time I would just sit there and try to be quiet so I could hear if I heard footsteps or voices downstairs, or if it was just the radiator. And sometimes I would get up and flash the light off and on to see if I saw shadows scurrying away or voices when they realized someone else was awake. Sometimes I woke up you and said, there's someone in the house, go check it out, right? So I did all of those things until I realized, and this was not that long ago. This is as a clarification, I've been a therapist for many years before I realized that was anxiety. That for me, waking up in the middle of the night triggered my anxiety. Still does, right? If I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm going to feel anxious. And so knowing that, it didn't stop. I couldn't fight it with my brain, right? Because if I said to myself, no, there's nobody here, this is probably not true. What are the odds that someone else is in the house right now? I'm still overthinking it, right? My brain is just still going,
yes.
Well, I don't know, but what if it is? I'm going to be like kicking myself tomorrow if it is someone else here, and that sounded different. That didn't sound like the radiator, right? Like I would just keep going down this path and not be able to sleep. And the deep breathing was just too hard to do, to be honest, at 3 in the morning when I was doing it. And so part of it is just acknowledging this is anxiety. And I'm feeling it, and I'm going to ride that wave, but I'm not going to interact with it at all. I'm just going to let it be, right? So I would just lay there and go, this is anxiety. I'm going to try to go back. I'm going to try to not let it control me. I'm not going to do anything different. I'm just going to try to go back to sleep, right? And so it's a way of labeling it. This is anxiety. So it means it's not even true enough for me to deal with it. I just need to, here's my other imagery if I can, is, when you're on a boat and you're going down a river, you sometimes don't realize how fast that river is going, right? Like it all feels like you're in the middle of this thought and process and feeling, and you're just going, and there's nothing else you can do about it, right? And that's what it's like when you're in the anxiety, right? And so some of the goal is to try to get out of the boat and climb to shore and just kind of watch that thought, that anxiety go by, right? So you go, I'm noticing that I'm anxious right now and I'm thinking someone's in the house. I'm noticing that I'm anxious right now and I'm thinking that that 5 people I know are going to die. And instead of saying, well, what are the odds of this, right, from the coronavirus? Instead of thinking, what are the odds of this, or taking a deep breath, or muscle relaxation, you just go, interesting that I'm thinking that. And I wonder what I think next, right? Like that seems like I'm feeling pretty anxious right now. And we just kind of acknowledge it and we see it, but we don't fight it. So it's a mindfulness approach.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those things, they can work in concert. Sometimes you can do one, sometimes the other, and sometimes the third. So
those 3 things being catch your thinking, fight it in your body, or just let it pass.
Yeah. Ride the wave.
Ride the wave. Cool.
Or get out of the wave.
Cool. I'm sure there's lots of questions about this, and I've answered some of them on, best as I can on the forum. But yeah, if you have any questions, send them our way. Thank you for...
Yeah, I think you said maybe the next video is going to be a question
Yeah, we can do a question and
video.
answer, so if you have any questions for Rachel or, myself or anything like that, just send them and we'll respond.
Ooh, maybe we could do like one of those YouTube videos where I'll read the questions that you
Oh, and then
get from
peel
Mike.
it back?
Yeah.
We can try to do that.
Or here's another question. Should Mike get a mohawk?
No, that's another video another time, which you'll be part of.
All right.
Because we'll have to shave it. All right.
See y'all later.
See ya. Take care.
Power out.